Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to our quiet fireside of stories, where the past whispers and the heart answers. Tonight, we journey to a weathered house by a Michigan lake, where Henry Thompson, a 65-year-old man carrying the weight of a terminal illness, returns to face his memories. Diagnosed with cancer and given months to live, Henry has come back to the home of his childhood, seeking something, perhaps forgiveness, perhaps peace, perhaps just a way to make things right. It's a tale of rain and wood, of love lost and found, and the courage to begin again. So, settle in and let's step into Henry's world together. Henry Thompson sat in his old pickup truck, staring at the dirt road ahead. The engine was off, but his hand still gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale. He was 65 years old, and for the first time in years, he was back in Michigan, back at the lake. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, just like it did when he was a boy. But now, everything felt different. He felt different. He looked out the window at the house. It was smaller than he remembered, or maybe it just seemed that way because the world had grown so big around it. The wooden siding was peeling, the roof sagged, and the porch steps looked like they might give way if he stepped too hard. This was the house where he grew up, where he learned to fish, to carve wood, to be a man. It was also the house where he lost everything that mattered. His wife, Ellen. His father. His sense of who he was. Henry opened the truck door and stepped out. His boots crunched on the gravel. The lake was just beyond the house, its water still and dark under the gray October sky. He could hear it lapping against the shore, a soft sound that used to calm him. Now it just made him feel empty. He had not planned to come back. Not after the doctor's visit 3 months ago. The words still echoed in his head. Cancer. Advanced. 6 months, maybe a year. He had sat in that sterile office, nodding like he understood, but all he could think about was this house, this lake, this place where his life had been whole and then broken. He did not know why he needed to be here. He just knew he could not stay away. Henry walked up to the porch, his heart heavy. The key was still under the old flower pot, rusted and cold. He turned it in the lock, and the door creaked open. The smell hit him first. Dust, mildew, and something else, something like memory. He stepped inside, and the floorboards groaned under his weight. The living room was just as he left it 10 years ago, after Ellen's funeral. The furniture was covered with sheets, the fireplace cold. A single chair sat by the window, facing the lake. He used to sit there with her, watching the sunset, her hand in his. He dropped his bag by the door and walked to the chair. He did not sit down. He could not. Not yet. Instead, he moved to the kitchen. The table was still there, the one his father built. Henry ran his fingers over the wood, feeling the notches and scratches. His father was a hard man, not one for words or hugs. But he taught Henry how to work with his hands, how to make something solid out of nothing. Henry could still see him, sitting at this table, sharpening his carving knife, his eyes focused, his voice gruff. Do it right, boy. No shortcuts. Henry's chest tightened. He had not thought about his father in years. Not really. But being here, in this house, it was like the old man was still here, watching him, judging him. Henry turned away from the table and walked to the stairs. He needed to see the bedroom. Their bedroom, the stairs creaked with every step. At the top, he paused. The hallway was narrow, the walls lined with faded photographs. He did not look at them. He could not. Not yet. He pushed open the bedroom door. The bed was still there, unmade, the quilt bunched up like someone had just gotten up. Ellen's scarf was draped over the chair in the corner, a soft blue thing she loved. Henry stood in the doorway, his throat tight. He could almost see her, lying there, her face pale, her smile weak. "I'm okay, Henry," she had said, even when they both knew she was not. He backed out of the room and closed the door. His hands were shaking. He went downstairs, grabbed his bag, and stepped outside. The air was colder now, the sky darker. He sat on the porch steps, looking at the lake. He did not know what he was doing here. He did not know what he was looking for. All he knew was that he was tired. Tired of running from the pain. Tired of pretending he was okay. Henry pulled a small notebook from his pocket. He had started writing in it after the diagnosis. Not much, just thoughts, fragments. Things he wished he had said. Things he wished he could forget. He opened it now and wrote one word. Home. He stared at the word, then closed the notebook. This house was not home anymore. Maybe it never was. But it was all he had left. He stood up and walked to the shed behind the house. The door was stuck, but he forced it open. Inside, it was dark, the air thick with the smell of oil and wood. Tools hung on the walls, rusted but familiar. His father's tools. Henry's tools. He reached for a hammer, its handle worn smooth from years of use. He held it, feeling its weight. Maybe he could fix something. The porch steps. The roof. The house. Maybe he could fix himself. Henry spent the rest of the day working. He pulled nails from loose boards, swept dust from the floors, and cleared cobwebs from the corners. His body ached, but he kept going. It felt good to move, to do something real. By the time the sun set, he was exhausted, but the house looked a little less broken. He sat on the porch again, a cup of coffee in his hands, watching the lake turn gold in the fading light. That night, he slept on the couch downstairs. He could not bring himself to sleep in the bedroom. Not yet. He dreamed of Ellen, her laugh, her voice. He dreamed of his father, his hands rough but steady. He dreamed of the lake, its water pulling him under. When he woke, it was dawn and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Henry got up and made coffee. He walked to the window, looking out at the lake. He thought about the days ahead. He did not know how many he had left, but he knew he could not leave this house. Not yet. There was something here, something he needed to find. Maybe it was forgiveness. Maybe it was peace. Maybe it was just a way to say goodbye. He opened his notebook again and wrote another word. Begin. He did not know where to start, but he knew he had to try. This house, this lake, this life. It was all he had. And for the first time in a long time, he wanted to hold on to it. Henry woke to the sound of birds outside the window. The couch was hard against his back, but he had slept better than he expected. The house was still, the air cool and heavy with the scent of old wood. He lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, trying to hold on to the quiet before the memories came rushing back. They always did. He got up and made coffee, the same way he had every morning for years. The kitchen felt familiar, even after all this time. The table was still there, solid and heavy, its surface marked with years of use. Henry ran his hand over it, feeling the rough edges, the places where his father's knife had left its mark. This was his father's table, built with his own hands, back when Henry was just a boy. He could still see his father sitting there, his broad shoulders hunched, his eyes focused on a piece of wood he was carving. "Do it right, Henry," he would say. No shortcuts. No mistakes. Henry's father, William, was not an easy man. He was a carpenter, a man of few words, with hands that could build anything, but could not offer comfort. Henry remembered watching him work, fascinated by the way he turned rough wood into something beautiful. A chair, a shelf, a box for his mother's jewelry. William made things to last, things you could trust. But he expected the same from his son, and Henry always felt like he fell short. Henry sat at the table now, his coffee growing cold. He thought about the summers he spent in this house, learning from his father. He was 10 years old when William first handed him a carving knife. It was too big for his small hands, but his father did not care. "Hold it steady," he said. "Feel the wood. Let it tell you what it wants to be." Henry tried, but his hands shook, and the knife slipped, leaving a jagged cut in the wood. William took the knife away and sent him to bed without supper. "You will learn," he said, "or you will not touch my tools again." Henry learned. He spent hours in the shed, practicing, trying to make his father proud. Sometimes he did. He remembered the day he carved a small bird, its wings smooth and delicate. He showed it to his father, holding his breath, waiting for the verdict. William turned the bird over in his hands, his face unreadable. "Good," he said finally. "Keep going." It was the closest thing to praise Henry ever got, and it felt like the sun breaking through the clouds, but those moments were rare. Most of the time, his father was distant, his expectations heavy. Henry remembered the fights, the sharp words that cut deeper than any knife. He was 16 when he told his father he wanted to be a teacher, not a carpenter. He wanted to work with books, with ideas, not with wood. William stood in the shed, his hands clenched, his voice low. "You think you are better than this?" he asked. "You think you are better than me?" Henry did not answer. He could not. He left the shed and did not go back for weeks. Henry stood up from the table and walked to the shed now. The morning light filtered through the trees, casting shadows on the ground. He pushed open the door, the hinges squeaking. Inside, it was just as he remembered. Tools hung on the walls, their handles worn from years of use. A workbench stood in the center, covered with dust. Henry stepped inside, his boots loud against the wooden floor. He felt like a boy again, small and unsure. Waiting for his father's judgment, he reached for a chisel, its blade dull but familiar. He held it, feeling its weight, remembering the lessons his father taught him. Be patient. Be precise. Do not force the wood. Henry looked around the shed, at the half-finished projects his father left behind. A chair with one leg missing. A box with no lid. A shelf that never made it to the wall. His father died before he could finish them. Before he could finish a lot of things. Henry's chest tightened. He had not been there when his father died. He was in Chicago, teaching, building a life with Ellen. His mother called to tell him, her voice flat. "Heart attack," she said. He was in the shed. Henry came home for the funeral, but he did not stay long. He told himself he was busy, that he had a life to get back to. But the truth was, he did not want to face this house, this shed, this man who had shaped him and hurt him in equal measure. He set the chisel down and picked up a piece of wood from the workbench. It was oak, heavy and solid, the kind his father loved. Henry turned it over in his hands, feeling the grain, the knots, the story it held. He wondered what his father saw in it, what he planned to make. He wondered if his father ever thought of him, ever wished things had been different. Henry took the wood back to the house and set it on the kitchen table. He did not know why, but he could not leave it in the shed. He spent the day working on the house, fixing the porch steps, patching a hole in the wall. His body ached, but he kept going. It was easier to work than to think, easier to hammer nails than to face the past. But the past was everywhere. In the table, in the shed. In the lake that shimmered outside the window that evening, Henry sat on the porch, a blanket around his shoulders. The air was cold, the stars bright above the lake. He opened his notebook and wrote a few words. Father, duty, regret. He thought about the man who raised him, the man who taught him to be strong, but never showed him how to be soft. He thought about the fights, the silence, the years they lost. He wondered if his father ever loved him, really loved him, or if it was just obligation, just another job to do right. Henry closed the notebook and looked at the lake. He remembered a day when he was 12, when his father took him fishing. It was one of the only times they spent together without work, without lessons. They sat on the dock, their lines in the water, the sun warm on their faces. His father did not say much, but he smiled, a rare thing. Henry caught a fish, a small one, and his father laughed, a sound Henry had never heard before. Let it go, he said. It is too small to keep. Henry did, watching the fish swim away, feeling proud, feeling close to his father for the first time. That memory felt so far away now, buried under years of distance and pain. Henry wondered if he could find it again, if he could find the boy who loved his father, the father who smiled. He did not know if it was possible, but he wanted to try. He wanted to understand the man who built this house, who left his mark on every board, every nail. He wanted to understand himself. Henry stood up and went inside. He picked up the piece of oak from the table and held it, feeling its weight. Tomorrow, he would start carving. He did not know what it would be, but he would let the wood tell him, just like his father taught him. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of something. Not hope, not yet, but a beginning. A chance to make something new, something that might last. Henry stood in the kitchen, the piece of oak still on the table. He had not touched it since yesterday. He wanted to carve, to make something, but every time he picked up the knife, his hands felt heavy. Not from age or sickness, but from memory. This house was full of memories, and not all of them were kind. Some were soft, warm, like sunlight on the lake. Others were sharp, cutting deep. The warmest and the sharpest were of Ellen. He walked to the living room and stood by the window. The lake was calm today, its surface smooth, reflecting the pale morning sky. Henry could almost see her there, standing on the dock, her hair catching the breeze. Ellen loved this lake. She loved this house. She loved him. And he loved her more than he ever knew how to say. Henry met Ellen when he was 25, teaching at a small school in Chicago. She was an artist, always carrying a sketchbook, her fingers stained with paint. He saw her one day, sitting under a tree, drawing the skyline. He walked over, nervous, and asked what she was drawing. She smiled, her eyes bright, and showed him. It was not just the skyline, but the people, the life of the city, captured in quick, sure lines. He was hooked, not just on her art, but on her. They married a year later, in a small ceremony by this lake. Ellen wore a simple dress, her hair loose, a flower tucked behind her ear. Henry could still see her, laughing as they danced on the dock, the stars above them, the water below. They moved to Chicago, but they came back to the lake every summer, to this house. It was their place, their haven. Ellen would paint, her canvases full of color, while Henry read or worked on the house. They were happy. He thought it would last forever. Henry turned away from the window and walked upstairs. He had not been in their bedroom since that first day back. He pushed open the door, his heart pounding. The room was just as he left it. The bed unmade, the quilt bunched up. Ellen's scarf still hung over the chair, soft and blue, the color of her eyes. He picked it up, holding it to his face. It smelled like dust now, not like her. But he could still remember her scent, like lavender and fresh air. He sat on the bed, the scarf in his hands. Ellen got sick when they were in their 50s. It started small, a cough that would not go away. Then the doctor's visits, the tests, the words that changed everything. Cancer. Not the kind you fight and win. The kind that takes everything. Henry wanted to be strong for her, to be the man she needed. But he was scared. Scared of losing her, scared of being alone. He tried to hide it, but Ellen knew. She always knew. She wanted to come back to the lake, to this house, for her final days. Henry brought her here, set up the bedroom, made it comfortable. She was weak, but she smiled. She sat by the window, watching the lake, her sketchbook in her lap. She could not draw much, but she tried, her hands shaking. Henry would sit with her, holding her hand, telling her stories about their early days. She would laugh, her voice soft, and say, "You are a good man, Henry. I am lucky to have you." But he did not feel like a good man. He felt helpless. He could not fix her, could not make her better. He could not even say the things he wanted to say. "I love you" was not enough. He wanted to tell her how she made his life better, how she made him better. He wanted to thank her for every laugh, every quiet moment, every time she looked at him like he was enough. But the words stayed stuck in his throat. And then it was too late. Ellen died on a quiet morning, the lake still outside the window. Henry was holding her hand, his eyes wet. She looked at him, her face calm, and said, "It is okay, Henry. I am okay." Then she was gone. He sat there for hours, holding her hand, until the nurse came. He did not want to let go. He did not know how. Henry stood up, the scarf still in his hands. He walked to the closet and opened it. Inside were Ellen's things, things he could not bring himself to touch after she died. Her clothes, her sketchbooks, a box of her paints. He pulled out a sketchbook, its cover worn, its pages yellowed. He opened it, his fingers careful. The drawings were of the lake, the house him. Ellen had drawn him sitting on the porch, reading a book, his face soft in the sunlight. She had drawn him fishing, his line in the water, a smile on his face. She had drawn him the way she saw him, the way he wanted to be. He turned the pages, his throat tight. The last drawing was unfinished. It was the lake, the dock, the sky, but the lines were shaky, the colors faint. She had been too weak to finish it. Henry closed the sketchbook and held it to his chest. He wished he had told her how much her art meant to him. He wished he had told her how much she meant to him. He went downstairs, the sketchbook in his hands. He set it on the kitchen table, next to the piece of oak. He thought about carving again, about making something for her. A frame for her drawing, maybe. Or something else, something that would hold her memory. He did not know if he could do it, but he wanted to try. Henry spent the day working on the house. He fixed a window that would not close, swept the floors, cleaned the fireplace. His body was tired, but his mind was full. He kept thinking about Ellen, about the life they had, the life they lost. He thought about the things he did not say, the things he could not change. He felt guilty, not just for her, but for himself. For all the years he spent running from the pain, pretending he was okay, that night he sat on the porch, the sketchbook in his lap. The lake was dark, the air cold. He opened the sketchbook again, looking at her drawings. Each one was a piece of her, a piece of them. He wondered if she knew how much he loved her, even when he could not say it. He wondered if she forgave him for all the times he was not enough. He opened his notebook and wrote a few words. Ellen. Love. Sorry. He did not know if he was writing to her or to himself. Maybe both. He closed the notebook and looked at the lake. He could almost hear her voice, soft and sure. "It is okay, Henry. I am okay." He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe he could be okay too. For the life they had, and the life he still had left, Henry sat at the kitchen table, the piece of oak in front of him. He had started carving, just a little, shaping the wood into something soft and curved. He did not know what it would be yet, but it felt good to work, to feel the knife move with purpose. Ellen's sketchbook was open beside him, the unfinished drawing of the lake catching the morning light. He looked at it often, as if it could tell him what to do next. The house was quieter now, or maybe he was getting used to its sounds. The creak of the floorboards, the hum of the wind outside. He had been here for weeks, fixing what he could, remembering what he could not forget. His father, Ellen, the life he had lived, and the life he had lost. But there was one piece still missing, one memory he had not faced. His brother, James. Henry stood up and walked to the living room. On the shelf by the fireplace was a small box, one he had avoided since he arrived. He opened it now, his hand steady. Inside was a letter, its envelope yellowed, the handwriting his mother's. It was from James, sent years ago, after their father died. Henry had never opened it. He did not know why. Maybe because he was angry. Maybe because he was afraid. He and James were close as boys, fishing on the lake, running through the woods. But they grew apart as men. James stayed in Michigan, working as a mechanic, while Henry left for Chicago, chasing dreams of teaching. Their father's death drove the wedge deeper. James wanted to keep the house, to fix it up, to make it a home again. Henry wanted to sell it, to leave the past behind. They fought, their words sharp, their voices loud. "You never cared about this family," James said. "You only care about yourself." Henry walked away, and they had not spoken since. Henry held the letter now, his fingers tracing the edges. He wanted to open it, but something stopped him. Guilt, maybe, or fear of what it might say. He set it back in the box and closed the lid. He would read it later. He told himself that, even if he was not sure he believed it, he went outside to work on the porch. The air was crisp, the lake sparkling under the sun. He was hammering a new board into place when he heard footsteps on the gravel. He looked up and saw a girl, maybe 16, standing by the gate. She had dark hair, a backpack over one shoulder, and a curious look in her eyes. Carter, an old woman who baked pies and waved from her porch. "Your grandma is Mrs. Carter?" he asked. Lily nodded. "She told me about you and your wife. She said you were nice people." Henry's throat tightened at the mention of Ellen. He did not know what to say, so he just nodded again. Lily looked at the house, her eyes bright. "This place is cool," she said. "It looks like it has stories." Henry smiled, a small one. "It does," he said. "Too many, maybe. Can I help?" Lily asked. "I am good with tools. My dad taught me." Henry hesitated. He was not used to company, not anymore. But there was something about Lily, something open and kind, that made him say yes. "Sure," he said. "Grab a hammer. Those steps need fixing." Lily dropped her backpack and got to work. She was quick, her hands sure, like she had done this before. They worked together, hammering nails, sanding rough edges. Lily talked as they worked, her voice light. She told him about school, about her friends, about how she wanted to be a writer someday. She asked him questions too. "Did you always live here? What was it like back then? Did you ever catch big fish in the lake?" Henry answered as best he could, surprised at how easy it was to talk to her. He told her about fishing with his father, about the summers with Ellen. He did not talk about the hard things, not yet. But Lily seemed to understand. She told him about her own life, about how her mom died when she was little, about how her dad worked long hours, about how she felt alone sometimes. It is hard, she said, hammering a nail. Feeling like no one gets you. But being here by the lake, it helps. It is like the water listens. It does listen. They worked until the sun was high, the porch steps stronger than they had been in years. Lily sat on the steps, drinking water from a bottle. Henry sat beside her, his hands resting on his knees. He felt lighter, like some of the weight he carried had lifted. Just a little. You're good at this, he said. Fixing things, Lily grinned. Thanks. You're not bad yourself, Mr. Thompson. Call me Henry, he said. Okay, Henry, she said. Can I come back tomorrow? He nodded. Sure. There is plenty to do. Lily grabbed her backpack and waved as she walked away. Henry watched her go, feeling something he had not felt in a long time. Not happiness, not exactly, but connection. Like he was not as alone as he thought. That night, Henry sat at the kitchen table, the letter from James in front of him. He still did not open it, but he held it, thinking about his brother, about Lily, about the lake. He thought about what Lily said, about the water listening. Maybe she was right. Maybe this house, this lake, was trying to tell him something. Maybe it was time to listen. He opened his notebook and wrote a few words. Brother, listen, try. He closed the notebook and picked up the carving knife. He worked on the oak, shaping it, letting it guide him. He did not know what it would be, but he knew it was for Ellen, for his father, for James, for Lily. For himself, Henry woke to the sound of rain tapping against the windows, a soft, steady rhythm that matched the quiet of the morning. The house smelled of old wood and coffee, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a faint warmth in his chest, like the embers of a fire that had not yet gone out. He lay on the couch, his body stiff from the hard cushions, and listened to the rain. It was a sound he had always loved, one that Ellen used to call the lake's lullaby. He closed his eyes, picturing her face, her smile, the way she would curl up by the window with her sketchbook on rainy days, capturing the world in shades of gray and green. He got up, his joints creaking, and made coffee. The kitchen table held the piece of oak he had been carving, now taking shape as a small bird, its wings half formed. Ellen's sketchbook lay open beside it, the unfinished drawing of the lake glowing in the dim light. The letter from James was there too, still unopened, its edges worn from being handled but never read. Henry touched it lightly, his fingers hesitating, then pulled away. Not yet, he thought. But soon, outside, the rain had softened to a drizzle, and the lake was a mirror of silver and mist. Henry pulled on his jacket and stepped onto the porch. The steps were solid now, thanks to Lily's help yesterday. He smiled at the thought of her, the way she swung the hammer with confidence, her laughter cutting through the weight of his memories. She had promised to come back today, and he found himself looking forward to it, to her chatter, her questions, her unfiltered view of the world. He spent the morning working on the house, tightening loose hinges, patching a leak in the roof. His body ached, the cancer reminding him of its presence with every heavy breath, every sharp pain in his side. But he kept going, driven by something he could not name. Maybe it was the house itself, demanding to be whole again. Maybe it was Ellen, her memory urging him to finish what they started. Or maybe it was Lily, her youth and hope making him want to leave something behind, something good. Around noon, he heard footsteps on the gravel. Lily appeared, her hair damp from the drizzle, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She waved, her grin bright against the gray sky. Morning, Henry. she called, hopping onto the porch. "Ready to make this place awesome?" He chuckled, the sound surprising him. "It's already better than it was." "You're a good worker, Lily," she shrugged, but her eyes sparkled. "My dad says I'm stubborn. I just like fixing stuff." "What's the plan today?" Henry pointed to the shed. "I was thinking we could clean it out. Lots of old tools in there, some worth keeping. Maybe find something you can use." Lily's face lit up. "Cool. I love old stuff. It's like treasure hunting." They walked to the shed, the air cool and damp. Henry pushed open the door, the familiar smell of oil and wood washing over him. Lily stepped inside, her eyes wide as she took in the cluttered space. Tools hung on the walls, rusted but sturdy. Boxes of nails and screws sat on shelves, alongside half-finished projects his father had left behind. Lily ran her fingers over a workbench, her touch curious but careful. "This place is amazing," she said. "Like a time capsule." "Did you make stuff here with your dad? Is that how your dad was?" Henry paused, the question catching him off guard. He thought of his father, his gruff voice, his unyielding standards. "Something like that," he said finally. "He wanted me to be strong, to do things right. But he didn't always know how to show he cared." Lily nodded like she understood. "Yeah, grown-ups are weird like that. They love you, but sometimes it comes out all wrong." Henry looked at her, struck by her insight. She was young, but she saw things clearly, in a way he hadn't at her age. "You're wise for 16, he said. She laughed, setting the chisel down. "No, I just listen. People say a lot when they think you're not paying attention." They spent the next few hours sorting through the shed. Lily was quick and efficient, stacking tools, sweeping dust, asking questions about each item. Henry told her stories as they worked, about the chair his father built for his mother, about the fishing rod he carved when he was 12. He found himself talking about Ellen too, about how she loved the shed, how she would sit on a stool and sketch while he worked. Lily listened, her eyes soft, and Henry realized he hadn't talked about Ellen like this in years, not to anyone. They found a box of old photographs under the workbench, their edges curled from time. Lily pulled them out, her fingers gentle. "Whoa, look at these," she said, holding up a picture of a young Henry and James, standing on the dock, their fishing poles in hand. "Is this you?" Henry took the photo, his chest tightening. He and James were maybe 10 and 8, their faces bright with summer sun. Their father had taken the picture, a rare moment when he wasn't working or teaching. "Yeah," Henry said. "That's me and my brother, James. You have a brother?" Lily asked, her eyes wide. "Where is he now?" Henry hesitated. "Michigan, last I heard." "We haven't talked in a long time." Lily tilted her head, studying him. "Why not?" "My grandma says it's never too late to fix things, even if it's hard." Henry looked at her, her words settling into him like stones in the lake. "Maybe," he said. "Maybe I will." They kept working, the shed slowly coming to life. Lily found a small wooden box, its lid carved with a simple lake scene. She handed it to Henry, her eyes curious. "What's this?" He opened it, his hands steady. Inside was a set of carving tools smaller than his father's, made for a child's hands. His tools, the ones his father gave him when he was 10. He hadn't seen them in decades. "These were mine," he said, his voice low. "My dad gave them to me." Lily grinned. "That's so cool. You should use them. Finish that bird you're carving." Henry held the tools, their weight familiar, like an old friend. "Yeah," he said. "I think I will ... By the time they finished, the shed was organized, the tools polished, the floor swept clean. Lily stood in the doorway, her hands on her hips, looking proud. "We did good," she said. "This place feels alive again." Henry nodded, his eyes on the workbench. "It does." "Thanks, Lily." "You're a big help," she shrugged, but her smile was wide. "Anytime, Henry." "See you tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," he said, watching as she grabbed her backpack and walked away, her steps light on the gravel. That evening, Henry sat at the kitchen table, the wooden bird taking shape under his hands. He used the child's tools, their size awkward now, but comforting. Ellen's sketchbook was open, the lake drawing guiding him. He thought about Lily, about her easy laughter, her sharp questions. She reminded him of Ellen, not in looks, but in spirit. The way she saw beauty in broken things, the way she made him want to be better. He set the bird down and picked up the letter from James. He held it, his heart heavy. Lily's words echoed in his mind. It's never too late to fix things. He wanted to believe her. He slid his finger under the envelope's flap, breaking the seal. The paper was thin, the ink faded, but his mother's handwriting was clear. It wasn't from her, though it was from James, passed on after her death. I wanted to keep it, to hold on to that. You wanted to let it go. I get it now. We were both hurting. I'm still here, in Michigan. I fix cars like always. Got a wife, 2 kids. They'd like to meet you if you ever want. I don't know where you are, but I hope you're okay. I miss you, brother. I wish we could fish again, like when we were kids. James. Henry's eyes stung his throat tight. He read the letter again, then set it down. James had reached out years ago, and Henry had been too stubborn to hurt, to respond. He thought of the photo of 2 boys on the dock, their lives ahead of them. He thought of the fights, the silence, the years lost. And he thought of Lily, her voice soft but sure. It's never too late. He opened his notebook and wrote a few words. Brother. Sorry. Try. Then he tore out a fresh page and started a new letter. James, I got your letter. Took me too long to open it. I'm sorry for that and for a lot of things. I'm back at the house, fixing it up. It's been hard being here, but it's good too. I think about you, about us, about the lake. I'd like to see you, if you're willing. I want to make things right. Henry, he folded the letter and set it aside. He would mail it tomorrow. For the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope, not just for the house, but for himself. The next few days passed in a rhythm of work and quiet. Lily came by each morning, her energy a spark in the house's stillness. They painted the porch, fixed the windows, planted flowers in the garden. Henry taught her how to carve, guiding her hands as she shaped a small fish from a piece of pine. She laughed when it came out lopsided, but Henry told her it was perfect because it was hers. The house was transforming, its wounds healing with each nail, each brushstroke. Henry felt stronger, not in body, but in spirit. The cancer was still there, a shadow he couldn't outrun, but it didn't scare him as much now. He was doing something real, something that mattered. He was making the house a home again, not for himself, but for someone else. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch eating sandwiches, Lily looked at the lake and said, "What's going to happen to this place when you're, not here anymore?" Henry took a sip of water, his eyes on the water. He had been thinking about that, about what to leave behind. The house was his past, his pain, his love, but it could be something else, something new. "I've been wondering that myself," he said. "What do you think should happen to it?" Lily chewed her sandwich, her brow furrowed. I think it should be a place for people to come. Like kids who don't have a lot who need somewhere safe. My mom used to talk about places like that, where you could just be yourself. This house could be that. Henry looked at her, struck by the idea. The house as a haven, a place of healing, like it had been for him these past weeks. That's a good idea, Lily, he said. A really good idea, she grinned, her cheeks pink. I'm full of him. That night, Henry sat at the table, the bird nearly finished. Its wings were smooth now, its head tilted like it was about to fly. He looked at Ellen's drawing, at the lake, the dock, the sky. He thought about her, about James, about Lily. He thought about the house, about what it could be. He opened his notebook and wrote one last word. Legacy. The next morning, he called a lawyer in town, an old friend of his father's. He explained his plan. The house would go to a trust, to be used as a retreat for kids like Lily, kids who needed a place to breathe, to dream. The lawyer promised to handle the details to make it real. Henry hung up, his heart light. It wasn't enough to erase the past, but it was something. A way to give back, to make the house live on. Lily came by that afternoon, her eyes bright as she showed him a story she'd written about a girl who found a magic lake. Henry read it, his chest warm. You're gonna be a writer, Lily, he said. A good one, she blushed, tucking the pages into her backpack. Thanks, Henry. You think I could write about this house someday? I know you will, he said. And you can come back here anytime you want. This place is yours now, too. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? He told her about the trust, about the house's future. She listened, her mouth open, then threw her arms around him, hugging him tight. You're the best, Henry, she said, her voice muffled. The absolute best. He hugged her back, his eyes wet. You're not so bad yourself, kid. The days grew shorter, the air colder. Henry's strength faded, but he kept working, finishing the bird, writing to James, talking with Lily. One morning, a letter arrived from James, short but warm. I'm coming, Henry. Next week. We'll fish, like old times. Henry held the letter, his hands shaking. He didn't know if he'd make it that long, but it didn't matter. They were brothers again. He thought of James, their fights, their bond. He thought of Lily, her hope, her future. He opened his notebook and wrote one final word. Peace. He closed it, his eyes on the lake. The water listened, just like Lily said. It held his pain, his love, his life. He leaned back, the sun warm on his face, and let go. The lake carried him, soft and steady, into the quiet. Dear listeners, that's the tale from the house by the lake, a season in a weathered home, where rain falls, wood speaks, sketches breathe, and a man finds his peace. Ellen, William James, and Lily lifted Henry. He lifts the children, the future, the circle a spark past heart to heart. What's your lake? Your carving? Your letter unwritten? Thank you for joining me tonight. Until we meet again, take care and listen close even when it's soft, even when it's still.